The grades are in, the hallway is quiet. My non-instructional term has officially begun. But this year, I'm not just reflecting on a syllabus, I'm contemplating a seismic shift in the human experience. Imagine standing in a room that you've commanded for over a decade. You have the credentials, the experience, the knowledge, and even the slightly fading whiteboard markers that you protect like national treasures. Yet as you look out, you realize that you aren't the only teacher in the room. In fact, you are outnumbered. Every student now has a ghost professor sitting on their desk, a glowing cursor, a chat window, a silicon brain that never gets tired and never judges a stupid question. I'm talking about AI. It hasn't just entered the classroom, it has moved in, unpacked its bags, and started paying rent. I'm Dr. Mers, and after over a decade of teaching, I realized this past year that my pedagogical operating system isn't just outdated, it needs a total hardware reboot. I've survived the texting under the desk era, the Wikipedia is not a source wars, and the great Zoom gaze of 2020. When we all sat staring into webcams, looking emotionally disconnected while pretending our microphone issues weren't actually just a tactical cover for the fact that we'd forgotten how to hold a human conversation. But this past year, something shifted in the classroom. It didn't just change, it underwent a system-wide update. I've always considered myself an active roamer instructor. I don't just stand behind the podium, I lecture and then circulate through the rows like a human troubleshooter. I'm on the lookout for the math panic face, the frantic calculator clicking, or students staring at the ceiling as if waiting for divine intervention. However, this past year, the response changed. When I leaned in to offer a hint on a problem, students looked up and said, "No thanks, I've got it." Curious, I looked at their screens and every time I saw they were using ChatGPT. I want to be very clear, they weren't cheating. There was no looming deadline, no assignment to submit, and no grades on the line. This was pure, unadulterated learning and practice. They were using AI as a bridge to understand the world I was showing them. ChatGPT was providing real-time explanations, breaking down my logic and turning confusion into clarity, completely off the record. At first, my ego took a hit. It felt like a 404 purpose not found moment. I felt like a legacy app being replaced by version 2.0. But then I realized that if students feel more comfortable asking a robot questions during a practice session than asking their own professor, we have a connection problem, not a tech problem. During a break mid-semester this year, I overheard a conversation among a group of students sitting near my desk. They were reminiscing about their time in elementary school during the COVID pandemic. My brain did a hard reset. Elementary school. I've always known they were young, but I often forget just how young. Most of the time, they look and act so mature that you'd swear they were seasoned adults. But in that moment, the math hit me. While I was at home obsessing over Zoom green screens and lighting angles, these students, they were children losing their most formative years of eye contact, playground negotiation skills, and social identity to a 13-inch monitor. They didn't just adopt technology to get through a crisis. They were shaped by it. They spent their essential years of learning how to be human in digital isolation. Suddenly, that AI co-pilot on their desk, along with the social distance between us, didn't seem like laziness or a lack of interest anymore. It looked like a survival mechanism. It wasn't a choice, it was part of their very foundation. This was a heavy realization that honestly humbled me. I've always prided myself on being the cool professor, the one who connects with students and anticipates their needs, but I had to admit to myself that I was running on outdated information. I needed to upgrade my understanding to see the world through their eyes. That upgrade brought me to my own literal system shock. I opened my first Instagram account in 2026. Now you have to understand, I am someone who has always lived by the principle that there is only so much time and energy in a single day, and we must use it wisely. Watching life hacks or scrolling through strangers' lives was never on my radar, but I was curious. I wanted to see what occupied the minds of my students. Stepping into that app for the first time felt like opening a portal into another dimension. It was mentally loud. The sensory overload included beauty tips, instant mental health diagnosis from people without credentials, and most disturbingly, million-dollar influencers telling my students daily that school is a scam. This right here is the root of the student recruitment crisis at colleges and universities that we are facing in North America. Why would a young person commit to 4 years of higher education studying when a person leaning against a rented Ferrari on Insta tells them that deep thinking is outdated? This narrative isn't just background noise. It's a powerful and toxic script that conveys that discomfort is a sign of failure and that every complex problem can be solved in 30 seconds. We aren't just losing their attention spans, we are losing their belief in the value of effort. I used to teach 3 or 4 hour blocks without any difficulty. Now, a 1 hour and 50-minute session feels like a psychological marathon. I've noticed a new pattern. I can't get more than 5 minutes of focused processing from my students at a time. If I'm about to dive into a complex topic, I literally have to issue a system alert. I tell them, I need your full CPU power for the next 10 minutes. Close the tabs, clear the cache, stay with me. And honestly, sometimes the students have a point. I've stood there teaching them how to derive an amortization formula algebraically by hand while sitting right next to software that can calculate the answer in milliseconds. I often joke with them, next time you're at the bank, you can really impress your mortgage advisor by deriving this on a napkin while you finance your car. They usually look at me with genuine concern for my mental well-being, and they're right. Beneath the joke lies an important truth. The issue isn't that foundational learning is useless. The problem is that we have stopped building a bridge between theory and real life. Real life doesn't offer one clean equation. Instead, it presents 300 confusing data points to analyze, along with fluctuating interest rates, taxes, decision fatigue, relationship clashes, and an emotional support coffee that's already gone cold. Algebra matters, but so does learning how to learn, how to organize chaos, analyze patterns, and make informed decisions. That's why I've started thinking differently about education. We need not less rigor, but more connection. Math is not just about numbers, it's about decision making, building confidence, and understanding the consequences before life sends you the bill. One of the biggest dangers we face today isn't AI itself, it's the temptation to eliminate all discomfort immediately. If we remove every struggle right away, we take away valuable opportunities to build resilience. Resilience is crucial in our careers, relationships, and leadership. You cannot use AI to bypass emotional endurance. Trust me, if there were a subscription for that, I would already own the premium version. Now, don't misunderstand me. I am not anti-AI. It is one of the most extraordinary tools we have for personalizing learning and reducing shame, and I use it daily. I truly enjoy learning from and playing with it, especially this summer. However, AI should enhance our thinking, not replace it. We cannot teach the students of 2026 with a mindset from 2005. We need to make intelligence aspirational again. We made influencers aspirational, now we need to do the same for curiosity. We need students to realize that depth is not boring, discipline is not punishment, and critical thinking is actually freedom. Because of the ability to think clearly in a chaotic world, that isn't just a skill, that's power. We need to make higher education great again, not by going back to 2005, but by leaping into the future. We need to show students that school isn't just for a career, it's where you learn how to meet a deadline when you're exhausted, how to network, and how to process chaos. This is why I started Meliora. If you want to join this movement and support our next generation, come with me. Let's dedicate our minds and energy to understanding what is actually happening in these beautiful, overstimulated minds. How can we encourage them to be more focused? How do we make critical thinking cool again? We need this change immediately. If we don't act, we risk a generation that knows how to find every answer but has no idea what the questions mean. Class is dismissed, but the movement has just begun. Welcome to Meliora. Let's make it better.